We have a goal to catalyze $150 billion in public and private finance by 2030. And that's, using our first loss guarantee or grant capital or concessional capital to de-risk the investments. At the same time, we need to get more public and private sector players in the door, and where public sector players are concerned in the least developed countries, there's no least developed country players in the global net zero financial alliance right now in GFANZ. It's all the global north and the west. So we've just launched this sustainable banking alliance. We're piloting in 2 countries actually. Colombia is one and Rwanda is another, where we're working with local financial institutions to give them the technical capability to think about what a net zero commitment would look like, and if not a net zero commitment, at least to really changing the portfolio so it's lower carbon. And if this goes well, we want to do that in more and more of the countries where we work, because a lot of them are B-grade investments, so to speak, which are not places that the private sector is likely to move. So we need the financial institutions inside the countries where we work to be more active on this front. So today we're going to hear about 2 projects that USAID has been involved in that involve nature-based solutions. I actually just had the pleasure of visiting one yesterday and met the gentleman you just saw on the screen. He's not here because he was denied a visa or because it didn't arrive in time. Same difference, right? So anyway, he's one of the community members at the Kenyan Rangeland Trust. And this was kind of astonishing. There's basically 14 communities that have stitched together this massive conservancy. There's no fencing between them, and it's the world's only, and therefore the world's largest, rangeland carbon sequestration project. So this is an area that was heavily degraded by livestock, because these are pastoralists. And because of this, we're seeing like multiple successive droughts in Kenya. The landscape was badly degraded, and the soil sequestration capability was vanquished effectively. So we worked with them over many years. It really took 10 years to bring this project to fruition, to have them work voluntarily to change the pattern of the livestock and the grazing, and to make sure it was sorted in the context of local conservation, because there's a heavy tourism component with all sorts of wild animals in that terrain as well. The first $124 million through the voluntary carbon market just came to this community. I went and I met them. That's being distributed equally amongst the 14 communities, and they're making their own decisions about how to invest that money. And it's too bad we don't have a picture of it, but there's a photograph of me with a pickaxe breaking ground on the maternity clinic, a 6-bed maternity clinic they decided to build with that money in one of the communities, because, women were dying in childbirth because of how far the nearest health facility was. They're using it for bursaries, for school fees, and much more, making their own decisions, all of them making different decisions in these conservancies. So, oh, there I am, yes. So, I have a little experience with a pickaxe. Anyway, but it really made it real, right? I saw with my own eyes what they're doing with this money, and I saw what it meant to them. And actually, that's a project that's faced a lot of criticism. I'm happy to talk to people offline if they want to about it, because having read all of the reports, I actually feel really strongly that it's a model and one that we ought to be thinking about replicating. And the second is just Colombia, which we'll hear much more about. So briefly, again, it's, as you said, a REDD+ project. It's focused on supporting Afro-Caribbean communities who are typically cultivating cacao or cocoa, and they're being supported to preserve the forests even as they continue cultivating their crops. And in this case, the voluntary carbon market, which we helped establish, as Sylvia, working closely with the government, helped to set tax on carbon, which is, we need to put a price on carbon, and then the voluntary carbon market so people can opt in. It works much better if you have a price on carbon. We just, over 26 million in the last few years has been provided to these Afro-Caribbean communities to support them in doing their work. But I'll let you all speak for yourselves. And, thanks very much for having me. I look forward to learning a lot more about this work.
Thank you so much, Gillian, for framing the conversation and for giving us very important messages on how to make sure that carbon markets, voluntary carbon markets, improve by betting on integrity, transparency, as well as equity. That's something that we are working with communities and with the private sector, and that we want to continue to do. So let's turn to our communities. So just to give you an idea, Ladi will be speaking Spanish. So I'm assuming most of you don't speak Spanish. We do have, the Resilience Hub does provide interpretation, but we might have some difficulties because of internet. So, okay, if you see this QR and you have your headphones, you will be able to hear Ladi when she speaks. She will speak in a moment, maybe in 10 minutes, so don't worry, you have 10 minutes to connect. But that's a better way to also listen to Ladi, and she's also connected right now, so she can hear what we're saying. Okay, so while Ladi gets ready, I want to turn to our communities. We want to learn from them, their journey to achieve conservation of forests and grasslands, and they will also tell us about how, while doing this, they also were able to invest in community resilience, in social development, and in other benefits. When we talk about carbon projects, we usually concentrate on carbon, but today we're here to listen beyond carbon. We're here to listen about delivering adaptation and social development benefits. So as Gillian mentioned, we're going to be talking about NRT and BioRed Plus portfolio. These two geographies are quite different and quite distant. We're talking about Kenya and Colombia, very different places in the world. However, these communities do have common characteristics. First of all, for their carbon projects, they are the owners of the land. So that's a key aspect of the success in these carbon projects. Communities own their land. But at the same time, they're currently facing very extreme social and economic conditions. They even face conflict. In the case of Colombia, armed conflict. And on top of that, they have to face extreme weather conditions. We'll talk about it in a moment. So despite these challenges, both projects, as I mentioned, have been able to bring real mitigation benefits, conflict resolution, community development, and climate resilience. So let's start to learn more about NRT. And I will invite you to watch the following video, video number 1.
Northern Kenya Rangelands Carbon Project is the largest soil carbon project in the world, and it aims to remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. It's expected to remove 50 million tons carbon dioxide from the atmosphere over a span of 30 years, and this is equivalent to annual emissions of 10 million cars. For this to be achieved, conservancies have to implement improved rangeland management.
This school is Samburu Community Primary School. The structure of the school is well built, although the challenge is that we have the low enrollment. Some of the factors which has contributed to this is this community are the nomadic pastoralists. They are moving from place to place. They normally move with their peoples.
Overgrazing is really a problem to us, and if encouraged, people to keep few animals, it is another headache to us. And as you know, we Rendile people, we only keep animals. We don't have any other source of income. So we are having both human problems and nature problems. And the overgrazing is caused by human, not nature.
I would really like to thank the communities that are participating in the conservancies, the 14 community conservancies under this project.
With a soil carbon project, we anticipate, one, sustainability of community conservancies. Through soil carbon, we are getting a lot of value.
We forwarded through the Board of Management the issue of dormitories, and later we came and get assistance from the community through Nasulu Conservancy, through carbon credits. So we are so much grateful. We've got the donation of 19 beds, double decker, with the mattresses.
Nimefurahia sana vile ambaye tumeletewa vitanda, itakuwa mali nzuri kwa sababu iko na security, itakuwa na security.
Carbon storage helps in many ways. It helps improve the rangeland health, and by rangeland health we mean that if we have more soil carbons, we have more grasses, we have more livestock, healthy livestock, thriving wildlife, healthy livelihoods for people. And that is what we are seeing today. It's thriving in this area, remote parts of the country. So that conservancy of ours have set a very good example to the rest of pastoral areas. And so I say on behalf of NRT, thank you, community conservancies.
Okay, this is a great video. Thank you so much. Can we have Andrew on the screen, please? Thank you. Okay, Andrew, I'm going to introduce you. Thank you again for joining us, Andrew Dockel. He was a primary school teacher for 13 years, and then he joined his provincial government for other 13 years. Now he's retired, but in 2019, he was elected as Melaco Conservancy Chairman. So Andrew, thank you so much. And please share, can you speak so we can check if we can hear you?
Yes.
Okay,
I can
great.
hear you.
So we are here to hear your story. Please go ahead. We
Good
hear you,
afternoon.
Andrew.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrew Dockel, and I am the chairman of Melaco Community Conservancy and the chair of Northern Kenya Rangelands Carbon Project Oversight Committee. Northern Kenya Rangelands Carbon Project covers 14 community conservancies across 2 million hectares of community managed grazing lands. Historically, pastoralists in northern Kenya moved with livestock across the land in search of pasture and water for livestock. And as a result, not all areas are grazed simultaneously at the same time. This allowed areas to rest and recover, hence less degradation. In recent years, pastoralists have become semi-nomadic and sedentary, settling in places with permanent water sources and other social amenities. By establishing permanent homesteads, livestock graze in the same area all year round, resulting to overgrazing. This damages the soil, resulting to significant reduction of grass growing back each year. As a result, cattle become less healthy and fetch less prices in the market. Scarcity of grass and water result to conflicts as communities fight over these resources. Overgrazing also results to loss of habitat, which impacts the wildlife, especially the endangered epidemic species to northern Kenya. If no action is taken, the following will happen: increased conflict over grass and water, increased insecurity in these areas, human-wildlife conflict, loss of livestock and wildlife, less income for pastoralists. Northern Kenya Rangelands Carbon Project is the largest soil carbon project in the world, and its aim is to remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and store in the soil through sustainable grazing management practices. Through improved grazing management, the project improves pasture for livestock, improves landscape for wildlife, makes rangelands drought resilient, and on top of that, through sale of credits from the project, it creates a revenue stream for community in northern Kenya. Through carbon project financing, communities' livelihoods have been improved through supporting implementation of sustainable grazing management, which improves pasture for livestock, and this means healthy livestock and increased income to households. Employment opportunities for conservancy staff who are also community members. Support education infrastructure and bursaries, which increase enrollment in schools. Provision of water through drilling of boreholes, construction of rock catchments, sand dams, and piping of water to villages to reduce the distance covered to access water. This water also benefits livestock and wildlife. Support health through construction of dispensaries, maternities, and nursing houses to ensure access to health services. Construction of tourist facilities and business enterprises to provide a sustainable income to communities in northern Kenya. And this is part of climate change adaptation. And now, I ask partners in carbon market to come forward and support this project because it impacts the lives of pastoralists in northern Kenya. I'm participating in COP27 to create awareness about northern Kenya Rangelands Carbon Project, create a network and maximize opportunity to attract supporting partners. I also expect this to bring the project on Kenyan government radar, as this can give us a chance to work with other carbon project stakeholders for policy development.
Thank you so much, Andrew. This was a great presentation, also a great video to understand. We will have time for questions at the end, but let me turn first to Larry. And before that, let's just watch a video to understand also the Colombia context and the Bio-Red portfolio.
Yo nací acá en el mismo monte. La madera ha sido parte de mi vida desde que yo era niño. Aquí todo es la madera, todo, todo, todo. Las embarcaciones, las casas, la economía, todo es de la madera. Somos dueños del territorio y todo, tenemos un título, pero estamos muy limitados. Mucho abandono, entonces como el abandono, pues usted sabe que donde no está el uno, entra el otro. Para uno coger platica ya tenía que meterse a la actividad de la madera, porque lo que hicimos fue deforestación. Y eso sacábamos que 2.000 árboles, y después Donde lo sentábamos teníamos que estar con un trapo. Eso lo sentíamos que lo estábamos ahogando. Y estábamos aquí mismo. El calentamiento. Nosotros necesitamos como conservar esto, el control con esto. Yo nunca imaginé que conservar era más rentable que talar. La idea que tenemos entre el proyecto Red y Forestales de Darién es que se le dé empleo a toda la gente que está en la comunidad. Forestales de Darién es una empresa que estamos construyendo como para beneficio de todos los 4 consejos que hacemos parte aquí. Son maderas que vamos a sacar con planes de manejo, ya maderas controladas, donde los árboles que vamos a sacar son árboles que ya están de salida. Cuando yo era cerrador, cuando miraba para arriba, a los palos, miraba era madera. Directamente ahora digo, bueno, ese palo captura tanto de carbono. De aserrador, pasé a representante. Mi lucha es conservar. Pues el Chocó, lo que significa para el mundo es que el Chocó es el pulmón del mundo.
Okay, great. So we put a lot of effort putting together these great videos. Thank you for the 2 communities that participated in putting this together. So let me just pass the word now to Ladi. And let me introduce her. We're very proud to have Ladi here at COP27. She's an Afro-Colombian leader. So is our Vice President, Francia Marquez. So 2 great leaders here at COP27. So Francia, you should be, not Francia, Ladi, you should be very proud to be here, and we are proud that you're here with us. So Ladi was leader of her community council called ACAPA in Tumaco. She was legal representative for a couple of years, and now she's a leader for the Community Producers Association of Cocoa and Coconut. And now she also leads a important component of the BioRed project, especially that related to MRV and community participation and governance. So, Ladi, please, do you want to come to the front and share with us the story of BioRed? So I just want to check first if you have been able to get interpretation or... No, it's not working very well. Okay. Okay. So I will ask kindly Luis Fernando to help us with the simultaneous translation of Ladi. Yeah. So Ladi, please.
Sí. Bueno, primero ubicarlos un poco. Primero, buenas tardes para todos y todas. Me siento súper contenta de estar aquí y mirar a mi primo hermano, Andrew. Es mi primo hermano. Bueno, segundo, ponerlos en contexto. Yo soy colombiana y orgullosa me siento. Vengo del Pacífico, donde comemos tapao de pescado, de marisco, de Tumaco. Nuestros proyectos RED se encuentran ubicados en el departamento de Nariño, Valle del Cauca, Chocó y Antioquia. Somos 19 comunidades que hace unos años atrás ya bastante empezamos a escuchar hablar de RED, de BioRED y decíamos, ¿eso qué es? Pero dijimos, vamos a apostarle a eso. Y en estas 19 comunidades tenemos un área de 750.000 hectáreas, de las cuales las 505.000 están en el proyecto RED. Proyecto RED MAC, son 8 proyectos. Tenemos 18 consejos comunitarios y un resguardo indígena. Y hemos podido estar todos de acuerdo para sacar esto en adelante.
Okay, she says, thanks very much for the opportunity of sharing with you the results of these projects. She's very proud of being from Tumaco, from the Afro-Colombian descendant family. And well, she wants to explain you how she works with the projects. There are 8 RED projects funded by USAID since 2012, and they joined 18 Afro-Colombian communities and 1 indigenous community from the Pacific. And these projects cover a bit more than 500,000 hectares, but they don't cover completely the territory of the communities that is around 750,000 hectares. It was hard at the beginning to work with the members of the communities to encourage them to understand the RED project. It's not easy in terms of carbon and in terms of sales and so on. That's what she said.
Bueno, ¿en qué nos hemos basado y cuáles han sido los pilares fundamentales para el proyecto o para los proyectos BioRedMac? Hemos tenido realmente 4 pilares. ¿De paso? Los 4 pilares, primero, cómo se ha basado la economía forestal en nuestro territorio, y como podían apreciar el video, fue pasar de ver los árboles como simplemente árboles para tumbar, a verlos como una empresa que nos da recursos y están en pie. Entonces fue primero eso, poder organizarnos fue contarnos, saber cuántas personas estábamos en el territorio, saber cuántas personas dependían directamente de la madera, y con ellos empecé a hacer un trabajo de sensibilización. Ese trabajo dio como resultado poder pasar de simplemente corteros o taladores a otras actividades productivas dentro del territorio, pero también hacer un proceso, como pueden ver, del Carmen del Darién y otros consejos comunitarios, del aprovechamiento de los árboles, pero de manera sostenible.
So at the beginning, it was very difficult to start with this concept of RED, as I mentioned before. And the first thing that they made was to identify how many families were involved in the logging of forests legally and illegally. And what they tried was to convince these families to stop logging and switch to another economic activity, such as productive projects that she's going to tell us later.
Otro de los pilares fuertes es la gobernanza. La gobernanza como tal es lo que nos fortalece dentro de nuestras organizaciones. ¿Por qué? Porque son los espacios de toma de decisión, de discusión y toma de decisión, y también es donde miramos cuáles son las falencias que tenemos, dónde estamos fallando y cómo podemos corregirlo. Además, es donde se hace toda la planificación y se aprueban o desaprueban documentos, como por ejemplo los POA, que son los planes operativos anuales, que son aprobados en asamblea.
Well, the second pillar is the governance issue, where there's a space for participation of all the members of the community to make decisions on how the project should be managed. So they actually work intensively in some instruments such as the distribution of benefits, and also they elaborate annual operating plans to decide which will be the best way to carry out the project.
Pues otro pilar súper importante es el pilar de género. Nosotros le llamamos, fue el primer consejo comunitario que tuvo un comité de equidad y género, donde nosotras como mujeres levantamos la voz y dijimos, si hay unos proyectos REC, debe haber un pilar, nosotros le llamamos los lineamientos de género, donde se identifique cómo va a ser atendida la mujer dentro de toda esta dinámica. Se capacitaron, hemos capacitado más de 4,000 mujeres en lo que van de los proyectos REC. Eso ha dado como resultado el empoderamiento de las mujeres, de nosotras como mujeres dentro de la dinámica de nuestros territorios. Ahorita tenemos mujeres como representantes legales y dentro de las juntas de gobierno, un número más o menos unos 32% de la participación en los puestos de toma de decisiones son de mujeres.
Another pillar is the gender topic. It's very important for them. Acapa Community Council was one of the first projects that considered this as a pillar for the project. The project has trained and strength capacities almost to more than 4,000 women, and the results of this strengthening is that now these days 32% of the members of the board of the community councils are now women, that are occupied by women.
Igual dentro de este pilar también está el relevo generacional. Cómo involucramos a los jóvenes que participen de manera directa. Y sobre todo en el pilar que sigue, que es el pilar de monitoreo del carbono. Siempre los jóvenes, la mayoría de los jóvenes de pronto no les gusta sembrar cacao o coco, pero sí estudian o ven la posibilidad de hacer otras cosas. Entonces, dentro de monitoreo, siempre están ejerciendo cargos como, por ejemplo, MRB, que es la patrulla o los jóvenes que se encargan de estar midiendo los árboles, haciendo todo ese monitoreo a la biodiversidad. Pero también hay unas actividades como monitorear cuál es el comportamiento de las familias dentro del territorio y también qué es lo que hacen nuestros vecinos, porque a veces eso también nos perjudica.
Another topic from the population point of view is the involucration of young people into programs of training and strengthening. It is very important to train this new generation coming, because they will guarantee in certain way in the long term that the forest will be protected and conserved. They also have been considered to run the monitoring, verification and report program that is compulsory for all RED projects, and it is done by young people in order to protect and to make presence in their territory and see and monitor the biodiversity, the carbon, and also the families, because the council need to know which families are doing well the work and which families from adjacent communities are going in to cut the trees probably.
¿Cuáles han sido los beneficios que nos ha dejado este proyecto? Pues mucho. Primero, pasar de no tener prácticamente unas fuentes de ingreso que generaran desarrollo comunitario, ahora las tenemos. Del 2013 al 2017 fue nuestra primera, nosotros decimos cosecha, que nos dejó algo así como 6 millones de créditos de carbono, que en recursos son más o menos como 26 millones de dólares aproximadamente. Vamos a pasar ahorita, estamos en nuestra segunda cosecha, que esperamos tener unos 18 millones de dólares. Esa plata es invertida en los territorios, es invertida de manera comunitaria. Como yo lo decía, se hacen espacios, asambleas, que le llamamos, donde la comunidad decide cómo invertir los recursos. Se apoyan proyectos de infraestructura como de colegios, centros de salud, puentes, caminos, el tema de acueducto. Ahora rato que hablaban de energía, nuestras comunidades no tienen ni energía, ni agua, ni saneamiento, y a raíz de esos proyectos hemos podido mejorar las condiciones. Pero también se apoyan a jóvenes que tenemos en capitales del país estudiando becados, 100% con becas, como a chicos que quieren salir a mostrarse como deportistas. También a jóvenes se han capacitado en el tema comercial. Tenemos jóvenes que ahora están apoyando las unidades de negocio en el tema de transformación. Tenemos pequeña transformación, ahorita les voy a dar coquillos. Entonces, los beneficios realmente en las comunidades se ven no dándole un recurso a la persona, sino en inversiones en el territorio. Así mostramos cómo vamos avanzando.
Well, you mentioned that the project has generated quite a lot of benefits, but basically they are very happy of having the first resources obtained from the first, she mentioned, crop of carbon credits from the first verification that covers the period between 2013 to 2017. From that first certification, they got 6.1 million credits, and they were already sold in the national and international market for around $26.5 million. Still going the second verification, which covers the years 2017, 18, and 19, and they expect to have 4.3 million credits, and the value of those credits will be around $18 million. So the way they decided how to use this money is through the annual operating programs. That is, they have to be approved by the General Assembly, and it's not a way of distributing all the money among the families. They decided to invest in a social way for the benefit for all the community.
Okay, thank you so much. I know we're running out of time, but we're gonna pass 10 minutes since we started late, so just bear with us a little bit more. We are here also to talk about resilience. And I wanted our both community representatives did talk about it, but I want to touch a little bit more on it. Andrew, I want to ask you a question. Kenya is going through one of the worst droughts in 40 years. It is estimated that around 4 million people basically have food insecurity, and almost 3 million people are not having access to water. So we would like to ask you, how is the communities at the conservancies facing the impacts of this drought, and how are you using carbon credit sales to respond to the drought event that you're facing right now?
Thank you for your question. Currently, Kenya is facing a very severe drought, and the situation in northern Kenya is even worse. Communities are suffering a lot as there is no food and water for people and pasture for livestock. Loss of people to hunger, malnutrition, loss of large number of livestock and wildlife is happening. Conflicts over scarce resources is also on increase, and this is restricting movement of communities in search of pasture and water. Revenue for the carbon project given to communities conservancies is split into 40-60%. 40% is used to support conservancy operation. 60% is accessed through Carbon Community Fund, and this is channeled to address community identified needs. In 2022, the funds were allocated to community identified needs as follows. 24% was allocated to water, boreholes, rock catchment, sand dam, and piping. 3% allocated to health, construction of dispensaries, nurses' houses, and hospital supplies. 36% allocated to education, payment of bursaries, construction of classes, fencing of schools, and supplying food. 19% allocated to tourism and enterprises. These construction of tourist facilities and business enterprises to earn community sustainable income. Some money has been allocated to drought response, provision of water and food to vulnerable families during drought. Therefore, this funding communities' resilience to climate change impacts enhance, and this is a good thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. We have to leave soon, but I do want to ask kind of the same question to Larry, because it's not a coincidence that Colombia, being far away, is also facing for the past 3 years heavy rainfall season. So drought in Africa, heavy rainfall in Latin America, and this is just climate change, right? So, Larry, very quick answer to this question, which is, have you seen a difference on the impacts of climate change between those places that have conserved forests in your region and those that have been degrading forests?
Sí, claro. Sí, claro. En el caso de nosotros, y voy a hablar como proyecto, tenemos y vivimos en el Pacífico, y a raíz de todos los cambios que está sufriendo el planeta, tenemos por lo menos en estos momentos, unos fuertes vientos que afectan y que han afectado a algunas comunidades. Si se dan cuenta, en Colombia ahorita estamos pasando por un fuerte invierno que está afectando ciudades como Cartagena. En el caso nuestro, que vivimos a orilla del mar, en playas, nos ha afectado menos a raíz de que tenemos unas barreras naturales de bosque, en este caso nosotros le llamamos mangle, que nos protegen de las fuertes oleajes, pero también de los vientos. Además, en este largo invierno ha permitido que el agua no se estanque. Entonces, eso es ver la diferencia. Cartagena no tiene manglares, no tiene unas barreras que lo protejan, pero nosotros sí. Entonces, a lo que invitamos es que la gente pueda ver que donde hay árboles, hay vida, hay protección. Entonces, hay que cuidarlos, hay que seguirlos cuidando, sembrando, porque no solamente nos dan la protección a los fenómenos naturales, sino que también los invito a visitar a Tumaco y vayan a mirar avistamiento de aves y verán la cantidad de vida que hay en los manglares.
Well, now these days in Colombia, there's a huge season of raining and flooding. Cartagena is completely flooded now these days. But in the specific case in Tumaco, they suffer from strong winds now during the last years. And fortunately, because they decided to protect and to conserve their forests, especially the mangrove nearby the coast, beside the coast, these winds do not have any effect on their houses or on their crops. So that's the way that she mentions that forests can protect their livelihoods, and while in Cartagena that there's no forest, no mangroves already, they were cut completely. They are covered and flooded in these days.
So I don't think we have time for one question. I'm asking JRPs. We do have time for one question. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. So I would like to open the audience for a question, or maybe just our virtual audience who is also, okay, you have a question. Okay, great.
Thank you. Felicidades por el proyecto. Congratulations for the project. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit how, first, what standards, if any, are you using for the voluntary markets, and how were communities allowed to select those standards? And then, if possible, also, how are these projects linked to national determined contributions or any government efforts?
Let's turn to Ladi first, and then maybe Jeff or, yeah. ¿Escuchaste? ¿Le tradujiste? ¿Le tradujiste? Sí, sí. You want to go first? Okay. So let me just also call Jeff. Can you introduce yourself very quickly?
Very good. My name is Jeff Tikok. I'm the Director of Communications for NRT, here representing the project because Andrew wasn't able to get his visa in time. In short, to answer, ours are accredited through Vera, so VCS, sold on the voluntary market, require historical credits, required to be retired. So it was for rangelands management for soil carbon, it was a brand new methodology. So that's one of the reasons why it took 13 years to put in process, doing all the, over 300 soil samples and all the methodology, which then had to be backed up by the science and the soil samples. So it's been a rigorous process. The conservancies have really done it on their own. We've had partnerships with the USAID funding, with other donors, with a partner who is selling the credits. So that's what's helped bridge that gap for 10 years. We had to get a bridge loan just to get it done. But it's been a proof of concept, and we're here now working with the government about scaling it up and expanding it to more areas. So we work within the county governments in Kenya, and so they help us, they support us, they host us, and the national government has been supportive. No taxation, actually a reduction in taxation. So we've had a sort of nascent response for them of really letting it happen, and now they're really getting on board to scale it up once we've proven the concept. But it's really been the communities that have done it and the communities who deserve then the rewards which they're getting. So it's a really, really community-based project. Thank you.
En cuanto a los estándares, pues nosotros estamos con BERRA, es el CCB y el BCS. Y en cuanto a la contribución, fue la otra pregunta. Pues como Costa Pacífica y en especial pues los 8 proyectos REC o BioREC comunitarios, estamos aportando con el 20% de la reducción de la Costa Pacífica, ¿sí? Eso está demostrando el trabajo que hacen las comunidades. De pronto es muy poquito a nivel nacional, pero para nosotros y nosotras es un buen esfuerzo que estamos haciendo. ¿Qué es lo que lleva ese 20%? A demostrar que si no estuvieran los proyectos REC comunitarios, cada año se deforestarían por ahí unos, ¿qué? 400, o más o menos son como 400 o 4 millones y algo de árboles que en este momento no se están deforestando. Y eso nos da un número de, déjeme acordar. Ahora que me acuerde le digo.
Well, in relation with the standards, the projects are using the VERRA standards, specifically the VCS and the CCB, Community Carbon Biodiversity and Verified Carbon Standards. In relation to the contribution, she mentioned that the 8 projects contributed in reducing deforestation between 2013 and 2015 and 17 in almost 20% for the Pacific region. Probably that is a small figure compared with the national context, but anyway, in the Pacific is 20%, which means more or less, she didn't remember, but I remember, it's almost 4,700 hectares per year that they are reducing deforestation in that area.
Okay, so as we near the end of the event, I want to thank you all for being here with us. I want to thank our speaker, Andrew. Thank you so much from Kenya, and Jeff also for supporting us. I think we can leave today with a key message, which is thanks to the leadership of these communities, we have been able to realize mitigation, adaptation, and social development benefits. And that's something that we are very proud of at USAID. So thank you so much and have a great evening, everyone.